Maya Chen's fingers moved across the keyboard with mechanical precision, her eyes locked on the screen as she executed a flawless combo that would have made her viewers cheer just a few months ago. Now, the chat barely registered any excitement. Another perfect execution, another optimal build, another step closer to climbing the leaderboards. The thrill was gone, replaced by the grinding repetition of chasing metrics and maintaining her streaming schedule. The blue glow of her multiple monitors cast harsh shadows across her face as she navigated through another practice session. Her setup was pristine, professional lighting, high-end camera, custom mechanical keyboard that clicked with satisfying precision. Everything optimized for maximum viewer engagement and competitive performance. Yet something fundamental was missing, a spark that had once made every gaming session feel like an adventure. Come on, Maya. You're playing like a robot again. Leo's voice crackled through her headset, his familiar teasing tone cutting through her concentration. Remember when you used to actually laugh while gaming? Like genuine human laughter, not that fake streamer chuckle you've been doing lately. Maya paused mid-combo, her character standing idle on screen. Leo's words stung because they were true. When had she become so mechanical, so focused on optimization that she'd forgotten the simple pleasure of play? Yeah, well, laughing doesn't pay the bills or win tournaments, she muttered, though she couldn't deny the hollow feeling in her chest. My audience expects a certain level of performance. Your audience fell in love with you because you were having fun, Leo countered. Remember that stream where you spent 3 hours just trying to make your character dance in that silly platformer? Chat was going wild. That was peak Maya content. She did remember. It had been spontaneous, unplanned, completely off-brand for her usual competitive content. But the joy had been real, infectious. The viewer count had spiked, and for days afterward, people had been sharing clips and asking for more lighthearted streams. Instead of following that thread, she doubled down on competitive gaming, convinced that consistency and skill were more important than authentic enjoyment. Maya leaned back in her chair, glancing at the viewer count on her second monitor. Decent numbers, but nothing spectacular. The growth had plateaued months ago, and she found herself working harder and harder for diminishing returns. When did gaming become such a chore? She asked, more to herself than to Leo. Her apartment felt like a gaming shrine turned mausoleum. RGB lighting cast rainbow shadows across walls lined with tournament trophies and sponsor logos. Multiple monitors displayed analytics, chat feeds, and social media metrics. Energy drink cans formed small pyramids on every available surface, and cables snaked across the floor like digital ivy. The space was efficient, professional, and completely sterile. In the corner, almost hidden behind a pile of gaming peripherals and promotional materials, sat the one thing that didn't belong in her carefully curated setup, a vintage arcade cabinet labeled Astro Blasters. The machine stood like a relic from another era, its once vibrant artwork now faded and dust-covered. The screen had been dark for as long as she could remember, and she'd grown so accustomed to its presence that it had become invisible, just another piece of furniture. The cabinet had been a gift from her Uncle Marcus, her mother's eccentric brother who'd always been more interested in building elaborate contraptions than holding down a steady job. He'd been the family's lovable oddball, showing up to gatherings with homemade robots, modified electronics, and stories about his latest invention. Maya had adored him as a child, spending hours in his cluttered workshop watching him tinker with circuit boards and outdated computers. Uncle Marcus had understood her love of gaming in a way that her parents never quite grasped. While they worried about her spending too much time in front of screens, he'd encouraged her passion, even helping her build her first gaming PC when she was 14. He'd seen gaming not as a waste of time, but as a form of interactive art, a medium for storytelling and human connection. He'd passed away 3 years ago, leaving behind a workshop full of half-finished inventions and this broken arcade machine that Maya couldn't bring herself to throw away. The cabinet had arrived just before his funeral, delivered by a confused moving company with a note that simply read, "For Maya, when she needs to remember how to have fun. Uncle Marcus." At the time, Maya had been touched but frustrated. The machine didn't work, and she'd been too busy with her streaming career to deal with repairs. It had found its way to the corner of her apartment, gathering dust while she focused on building her online presence. "You still there, Maya?" Leo's voice brought her back to the present. "Yeah, just thinking about the tournament. Regional finals are in 3 days." "Right, the big one. You've been preparing for weeks. You know your strategy inside and out. Hell, you could probably execute your build in your sleep at this point." Maya nodded, though Leo couldn't see her. The regional online tournament had consumed her life for the past month. Every waking moment had been dedicated to perfecting her gameplay, analyzing opponents, and optimizing her setup. She'd watched hours of footage, memorized frame data, and practiced until her fingers moved without conscious thought. She'd sacrificed sleep, social plans, and even basic self-care for the chance of victory. But as the tournament approached, she felt more anxiety than excitement. The pressure was overwhelming. Her sponsors expected results, her audience expected content, and she expected perfection from herself. The stakes felt impossibly high, and the joy of competition had been replaced by the terror of failure. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing this for the right reasons anymore," she admitted quietly, surprising herself with the honesty. "What do you mean?" "I used to game because it was fun. Because I loved the stories, the challenges, the community. Now it's all about rankings and views and proving myself. When did it become so serious? So stressful?" Leo was quiet for a moment, and Maya could hear the soft clicking of his keyboard as he continued playing. "Maybe you need to rediscover what made you fall in love with gaming in the first place," he said finally. "Remember when we first started playing together? You were terrible at everything, but you had this infectious enthusiasm. You'd get excited about the dumbest things, finding a hidden coin, figuring out a simple puzzle, making an NPC say something funny." "I was terrible," Maya agreed, smiling despite herself. "But I didn't care. Every game felt like a new world to explore."
Exactly.
"And that's what made your early streams so special. People didn't watch because you were the best player. They watched because you were having the most fun." After they logged off, Maya found herself staring at the dusty arcade cabinet. She couldn't remember the last time she'd actually looked at it closely. On impulse, she grabbed a microfiber cloth and started wiping away years of accumulated dust and grime. The artwork beneath was more detailed than she'd remembered, a space-themed adventure with vibrant aliens and cosmic landscapes, all rendered in the distinctive style of classic arcade games. The cabinet was beautiful in its own retro way, a piece of gaming history that belonged in a museum rather than hidden in her apartment corner. As she cleaned, she noticed something odd, a very faint line of what looked like glow-in-the-dark paint leading from the cabinet's side, disappearing under an old rug that had been there so long she'd forgotten it existed. She lifted the rug, revealing more of the faint line, but it seemed to lead nowhere, ending abruptly at the wall. Probably some leftover decoration from a long-ago party, she thought, or maybe Uncle Marcus had been experimenting with some kind of lighting effect before the machine broke down. Maya stepped back to admire her cleaning work. The cabinet looked almost new, its colors vibrant and inviting. For a moment, she could imagine what it must have been like when it was functional, filling arcade halls with electronic sounds and the excited chatter of players. She felt a pang of nostalgia for an era of gaming she'd never actually experienced but had always romanticized. She shrugged off the melancholy and went back to her tournament preparation, but her eyes kept drifting back to the newly cleaned cabinet. It seemed to dominate the room now, a colorful reminder of gaming's playful past and her sterile, competitive present. The next morning brought an unexpected delivery. Maya wasn't expecting any packages, but the courier insisted it was addressed to her, double-checking her name and apartment number before handing over a small, nondescript box. The return address listed a company she'd never heard of, Quantum Energy Solutions, with a generic corporate logo that looked like it had been designed by committee. Inside was what appeared to be a standard promotional package from a new energy drink sponsor, complete with glossy marketing materials and promises of enhanced gaming performance and next-level focus. Maya had received dozens of similar packages over the years, usually containing sample products, branded merchandise, and contracts for sponsored content. But this package was different. Instead of the usual array of cans and promotional items, it contained only an old, unlabeled USB stick with an unusual hexagonal shape. The device looked handmade, its surface slightly irregular and marked with tiny scratches that suggested years of use. It was completely unlike the sleek, branded promotional items she usually received. Maya plugged it into her computer, curious about what kind of marketing gimmick this might be. Her virus scanner ran automatically, finding nothing suspicious. The device appeared on her desktop as a standard removable drive, but when she opened it, she found it completely empty. No files, no folders, no hidden partitions that her software could detect. She ran deeper scans, used data recovery tools, and even tried accessing it through command line interfaces, but found nothing. The device claimed to have storage capacity, but it was as blank as a freshly formatted drive. After an hour of investigation, she dismissed it as either a bizarre marketing stunt, a manufacturing error, or a simple mistake by the shipping company. The USB stick sat on her desk as she dove back into tournament preparation, its unusual shape catching her eye occasionally. She'd pick it up, examine it more closely, then set it aside again. There was something oddly compelling about it, but she couldn't put her finger on what. Her preparation was interrupted by news that made her stomach drop. Her main rivals, a team called Digital Dominance, had just posted a video showcasing a new strategy that seemed almost unbeatable. The video showed them executing a complex series of moves that Maya had never seen before, combining advanced techniques in ways that defied conventional wisdom. Maya spent the rest of the day frantically analyzing their gameplay, frame by frame, trying to understand their approach. She ran countless practice scenarios, adjusting her own tactics and testing counters. The more she studied their strategy, the more formidable it seemed. They'd clearly been holding back this technique, saving it for the tournament finals. The pressure was mounting exponentially. Not only did she need to execute her own strategy perfectly, but she also had to adapt to this new threat. She stayed up until 3 in the morning, practicing and theorizing, her stress levels climbing with each passing hour. Tournament day arrived gray and drizzly, matching Maya's mood perfectly. She'd managed only a few hours of sleep, her mind racing with potential strategies and counter-strategies. Coffee wasn't helping. She was already jittery with caffeine and nerves, and more stimulants would only make things worse. As she powered up her gaming rig for final preparations, she noticed some odd behavior from her system. Small graphical glitches appeared on her screen. Brief moments of pixelation, strange color shifts, and occasional sound effects that seemed almost like vintage arcade bleeps and bloops. The sounds were so faint she initially thought they were coming from outside, but they seemed to be emanating from her speakers. Probably just old drivers, she muttered, making a mental note to update everything after the tournament. She had more important things to worry about than minor technical hiccups. Her system was stable where it mattered, and she couldn't afford any major changes this close to competition. The mysterious USB stick kept appearing on her desk no matter where she put it. She'd place it in a drawer, only to find it next to her keyboard an hour later. She'd toss it onto her bookshelf, and somehow it would end up back on her mouse pad. She'd stick it in her pocket, and it would materialize on her desk while she was in the bathroom. Either she was more stressed than she realized, or the thing had developed a mind of its own. Maya began to suspect she was unconsciously moving it around, her subconscious drawn to the unusual object even as her conscious mind dismissed it as unimportant. As the tournament start time approached, Maya ran through her warm-up routine with mechanical precision. She executed her standard combos, tested her reaction times, and reviewed her strategic notes one final time. Her gameplay felt technically sound but emotionally empty. She was executing perfectly, but there was no spark, no excitement. Just cold, calculated efficiency. The tournament lobby was buzzing with activity. Players from across the region were checking in, their usernames appearing in the brackets as they confirmed their participation. Maya watched the list grow, recognizing many of the names as rivals she'd faced before. The competition would be fierce, but she was as prepared as she could be. 2 hours before her semi-final match, disaster struck without warning. A sudden electrical surge hit the building, and Maya watched in horror as her gaming PC went dark. The lights flickered, and she heard the distinctive whine of electronics under stress. The power came back on moments later, but her computer refused to start. The smell of fried electronics filled the air, acrid and unmistakable. No, 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 Maya whispered, frantically checking connections and pressing the power button repeatedly. Nothing. The machine that had been her lifeline, her career, her entire identity for the past few years, was completely dead. Her tournament dreams were literally going up in smoke. She tried everything she could think of, different power cables, different outlets, even pulling out components and reseating them. But the damage was extensive. The power supply was fried, and likely several other components as well. Even if she could get replacement parts, there was no time to rebuild the system before the tournament ended. Her phone buzzed with messages from Leo and her streaming audience, wondering where she was. The tournament had already started, and players were checking in for their matches. Maya's chest tightened with panic as she realized the scope of the disaster. After months of preparation, after sacrificing so much of her life to this competition, she was going to miss the biggest tournament of her career because of a stupid power surge. She called Leo, her voice shaking as she explained the situation. My entire setup is dead. Everything. I can't even get my computer to turn on. Are you kidding me? After all that preparation? Can't you borrow someone's computer? With what time? The tournament is happening now. Even if I could find a replacement, I'd need hours to reinstall everything, configure my settings, practice on the new hardware. It's over. The weight of disappointment settled over her like a physical thing. Months of work gone. Her streaming career stalled. All because of a random electrical problem that she couldn't have predicted or prevented. In desperation, she grabbed a flashlight and started searching through her apartment for anything that might help. Maybe she had an old laptop that could run the game, or some backup hardware she'd forgotten about. Anything that might salvage the situation. As she stumbled through the darkened room, moving boxes and equipment around in a frantic search, she tripped over something large and solid. The arcade cabinet. Maya rubbed her shin, cursing under her breath. But as she steadied herself against the old machine, something unexpected happened. The cabinet rocked slightly from the impact, and she heard a soft mechanical click from its side. A small panel she'd never noticed before popped open, revealing a dusty interior with an unfamiliar port and a faint, blinking red light. The opening was small, hidden behind a section of the cabinet's decorative side panel that had been designed to look like a simple part of the artwork. What the hell? Maya leaned closer, shining her flashlight into the hidden compartment. The port looked modern, completely unlike the rest of the cabinet's vintage components. It was sleek, precisely machined, and appeared to have been installed recently. The blinking light pulsed in a steady rhythm, as if the machine was waiting for something, like a computer in sleep mode. The discovery made no sense. The cabinet had been broken for years, completely non-functional. How could it have modern components? And why would Uncle Marcus have installed contemporary hardware in a vintage arcade machine? As she examined the mysterious port more closely, Maya could have sworn she heard something. A faint, distorted voice that seemed to be coming from deep within the machine. The words were barely audible, but they sounded almost like Uncle Marcus saying something about finding the fun. The voice had that same slightly nasal quality, the same rhythmic way of speaking that she remembered from her childhood. She shook her head, chalking it up to stress, sleep deprivation, and wishful thinking. Uncle Marcus had been dead for 3 years. There was no way she was actually hearing his voice. It was just her mind playing tricks on her, creating patterns in random electronic noise. Her phone buzzed again. Leo was calling, probably to check on her progress and offer whatever help he could. Maya answered, her voice thick with frustration and exhaustion.
Maya.
Where are you? The tournament bracket is about to lock. They're giving stragglers another 10 minutes, but after that, you're automatically disqualified. My PC is dead, she said, her voice cracking with the weight of defeat. Power surge fried everything. I can't compete. After all that preparation, all that work, I'm going to miss the biggest tournament of my career because of a stupid electrical problem. Are you serious? Isn't there anything you can do? Any way to get online? Maya stared at the broken arcade cabinet, feeling the weight of disappointment settling over her like a heavy blanket. Months of work gone. Her streaming career stalled. All because of a random accident that she couldn't have prevented. Then, on an impulse she couldn't explain, she grabbed the mysterious USB stick from her desk. It was probably pointless, but she had nothing left to lose. Maybe it contained some kind of diagnostic tool, or maybe it was just her mind grasping at straws, but she felt compelled to try. She crouched down next to the arcade cabinet and slowly inserted the hexagonal device into the hidden port. It fit perfectly, sliding in with a satisfying click that seemed to echo through the machine's interior. The effect was immediate and startling. The cabinet whirred to life, with a sound like a sleeping giant awakening. Lights flickered across its surface in complex patterns, and the screen blazed with brilliant, vibrant colors that seemed impossibly bright after years of darkness. The machine hummed with electronic life, every component suddenly functioning as if it had never been broken. But instead of the old Astro Blasters game Maya expected, something entirely new appeared on screen. The display showed a vibrant, cartoonish version of Maya herself, rendered in a charming pixel art style that somehow captured not just her appearance, but her personality. The digital Maya wore her signature purple hair and favorite gaming hoodie, complete with her Lucky Pin collection and the slightly worn patches that told the story of her gaming journey. She was holding a controller and facing off against hilariously exaggerated versions of her online gaming rivals. One opponent had comically oversized muscles and a head shaped like a dumbbell. Another looked like a walking computer monitor with arms and legs. A third resembled a pile of energy drink cans that had somehow gained sentience and learned to play video games. Maya's jaw dropped as text appeared on the screen in handwriting she recognized immediately. Uncle Marcus's distinctive, slightly messy script, with its characteristic flourishes and irregular spacing that she'd seen on countless birthday cards and workshop notes over the years. Hey kiddo! Real fun isn't found in a win-slash-loss ratio. It's in the game itself. Surprise! Your final match isn't online. It's right here. Go have some fun. Uncle Marcus. Before Maya could fully process what was happening, the screen split vertically, and Leo's face appeared on the right side via what appeared to be a crystal-clear video call. But he wasn't in his usual gaming setup. He was standing in front of his own arcade cabinet, identical to Maya's down to the last detail. Maya. Leo's voice came through the cabinet's speakers with perfect clarity, as if he were standing right next to her. You're not going to believe this, but I think we've been pranked by your uncle. From beyond the grave. What are you talking about? Maya was still staring at the screen in disbelief, her mind struggling to process what she was seeing. How is this possible? Leo was laughing, a sound of pure, infectious joy that Maya hadn't heard from him in months. It was the kind of unguarded laughter that came from genuine surprise and delight, not the polite chuckles of their recent gaming sessions. I got a package yesterday too. Same weird USB stick, same mysterious company name. My old arcade cabinet in the garage, the one I bought at that estate sale last year and never got working. It just came to life. There's a note here saying this is the real tournament final, a custom co-op challenge designed specifically for us. Maya's mind was racing, trying to piece together the impossible puzzle. But Uncle Marcus died 3 years ago. How could he have planned this? How did he know about the tournament, about the power surge, about any of this? I don't know the how, but look at this. Leo held up a letter with Marcus's distinctive letterhead, a whimsical design featuring cartoon robots and circuit board patterns. He contacted me years ago, right after he gave you that cabinet. Said he was working on something special for you, something that would remind you why you fell in love with gaming in the first place. He asked me to keep it secret and wait for the right moment. Leo's voice grew softer, more reverent. Maya, he spent years planning this. He knew you'd eventually get caught up in the competitive scene, lose sight of what made gaming special for you. He wanted to give you a way back to that joy, but he wanted it to be a surprise, something that would catch you completely off guard. The pieces started falling into place like a complex puzzle solving itself. The mysterious USB stick that had appeared just days before the tournament. The power surge that had seemed like random bad luck. the strange glitches in her system that had been building up for days. Even the energy drink sponsorship that had seemed too good to be true. The power outage, Maya said slowly, her voice barely a whisper. He knew about it? Apparently, there was a planned grid test in both our neighborhoods today. Some kind of infrastructure maintenance that happens every few years. He somehow found out about it and timed everything perfectly. Maya, your uncle orchestrated this entire thing. He knew exactly when you'd be most frustrated, most disconnected from the joy of gaming, and he planned this surprise to coincide with that moment. Maya's eyes filled with tears as more text appeared on the screen, Uncle Marcus's words flowing across the display like a gentle stream. I know my favorite gamer has been struggling with the joy of the game lately. Competition is fun, but it's not everything. Sometimes the best victory is just playing with a friend and remembering why we fell in love with this beautiful, ridiculous hobby in the first place. This game was made just for you, kiddo. Every pixel, every sound, every challenge designed with your happiness in mind. The custom game looked absolutely incredible. Maya could see immediately that it had been designed with her and Leo's specific preferences in mind, featuring gameplay mechanics from their favorite titles mixed with classic arcade elements. The art style was gorgeous, combining retro pixel art with modern techniques to create something that felt both nostalgic and fresh. Their cartoon avatars looked ready for adventure, equipped with an array of abilities that seemed to reference every game they'd ever played together. Maya's character had her signature purple hair and a collection of weapons that looked like they'd been pulled from their favorite co-op sessions. Leo's avatar wore his lucky gaming shirt and carried tools that suggested puzzle solving and support abilities. So, what do you say? Leo asked, his grin visible even through the pixelated video feed. Ready to play the most important match of your life? Your uncle spent years creating this for you. I think we owe it to him to see what he built. Maya wiped her eyes and reached for the joysticks. They felt perfect in her hands, not too loose, not too tight, with just the right amount of resistance. The buttons were responsive and satisfying, each press accompanied by a subtle tactile feedback that made every input feel meaningful. For the first time in months, she felt that old flutter of anticipation, the pure excitement of diving into a new game with her best friend. The pressure of the tournament had completely evaporated, replaced by curiosity and genuine eagerness to explore what Uncle Marcus had created. Let's do this, she said, and pressed start. The game was unlike anything Maya had ever experienced. It combined the precise timing and pattern recognition of classic arcade games with modern cooperative mechanics, creating challenges that required both individual skill and perfect teamwork. The difficulty was expertly calibrated, challenging enough to be engaging, but never so frustrating that it stopped being fun. Maya and Leo had to communicate constantly, coordinating their attacks and sharing power-ups in real time. Their characters complemented each other perfectly, with abilities that seemed designed to encourage collaboration rather than competition. When one player was struggling, the other could provide support. When they worked together, they could pull off spectacular combinations that neither could achieve alone. But the most remarkable thing was how much fun they were having. Maya found herself laughing at the ridiculous enemy designs, creatures that looked like they'd been dreamed up by a child with unlimited imagination. She cheered when Leo pulled off an impossible save and groaned dramatically when they had to restart a particularly challenging section. The competitive pressure was completely gone, replaced by pure joy in the experience itself. There were no rankings to worry about, no audience to impress, no sponsors to satisfy. Just two friends playing a game that had been created specifically for their enjoyment. The game seemed to adapt to their playstyle in real time, becoming more challenging as they improved but never feeling unfair or frustrating. Uncle Marcus had clearly spent years studying Maya's gaming preferences, learning what made her tick, what challenged her, what brought her joy. Every element of the game felt personalized, as if it had been crafted by someone who knew her better than she knew herself. Hours passed without Maya noticing. Usually, she was acutely aware of time during gaming sessions, thinking about stream schedules and viewer engagement, calculating optimal play times and content creation opportunities. But now she was completely absorbed in the moment, focused entirely on the game and her connection with Leo. Maya, Leo said during a brief pause between levels, when's the last time you had this much fun gaming? She thought about it seriously, trying to remember a time when she'd felt this kind of pure, uncomplicated joy while playing. I honestly can't remember. Maybe when we first started playing together online. Back when we were just figuring out how to work together before I started streaming professionally. Yeah, back when we were just two friends who loved games and didn't care about anything else. No pressure, no expectations, just pure fun. The game continued, each level more creative and entertaining than the last. Maya realized that Uncle Marcus had designed it not just as a surprise or a gift, but as a love letter to gaming itself. Every element celebrated the joy of play, the satisfaction of mastery, the bond between friends sharing an adventure. There were moments of genuine challenge that required multiple attempts and creative problem-solving. But instead of feeling frustrated by failure, Maya found herself energized by each setback, eager to try again and discover new approaches. The game had somehow captured the essence of what made gaming special, the process of learning, growing, and overcoming obstacles through persistence and creativity. As they played, Maya started thinking about her streaming career differently. Instead of focusing on competitive rankings and viewer metrics, what if she shared this feeling with her audience? What if she showed them games that prioritized fun over optimization, discovery over dominance, connection over competition? The final boss was a collaborative puzzle that required Maya and Leo to work together in perfect harmony. They had to time their actions precisely, communicate constantly, and trust each other completely. The challenge felt like a dance rather than a fight, a celebration of their friendship and shared gaming history. When they finally defeated it, the screen exploded in a shower of digital confetti. Fireworks lit up the virtual sky, and their characters performed a victory dance that was both triumphant and silly. The joy was infectious, and Maya found herself laughing with pure delight. "Congratulations, Maya," appeared on screen in Uncle Marcus's handwriting. "You've remembered the most important rule of gaming. It's supposed to be fun. Competition has its place, but it should never replace the simple pleasure of play. Now go share that joy with the world. Make games fun again, kiddo." Maya sat back in her chair, feeling lighter than she had in months. The stress of the missed tournament had completely evaporated, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose and a clarity she hadn't felt in years. She looked at the arcade cabinet with new appreciation and understanding. This wasn't just a broken machine that had been gathering dust in her apartment. It was a carefully crafted gift from someone who had understood her better than she understood herself. Uncle Marcus had seen her trajectory, predicted her struggles, and created something that would bring her back to herself at exactly the right moment. "Leo," she said, her voice filled with excitement and possibility, "I think I want to completely change my channel." "What do you mean?" "No more grinding for the sake of rankings. No more following the meta just because it's supposedly optimal. No more treating gaming like a business, where fun is secondary to performance. I want to focus on games that bring joy, that remind people why they fell in love with this medium in the first place." Leo grinned, and Maya could see the approval in his expression. "I think your uncle would love that. He always said you had the potential to be more than just another competitive streamer. He thought you could be someone who helped people remember why games matter." Maya turned on her backup streaming setup, using her secondary camera and microphone that she kept for emergencies. Instead of her usual professional overlay with sponsor logos and social media handles, she kept everything simple and authentic. She pointed the camera at the arcade cabinet and started telling her audience about the incredible surprise her uncle had left for her. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Viewers who had been watching her streams for years commented about how different she seemed, how much more genuine and excited she appeared. Her voice carried an energy and enthusiasm that had been missing from her recent content. New viewers joined the stream, drawn by her authentic excitement and the uniqueness of the story. The chat filled with messages from other gamers sharing their own stories about lost joy and rediscovered passion. People talked about their own journeys from casual enjoyment to obsessive competition and back to simple fun. Maya spent the rest of the stream playing the custom game with Leo, sharing every moment of discovery and delight with her audience. She explained Uncle Marcus's elaborate plan in detail, read his messages aloud, and talked openly about how the experience had changed her perspective on gaming and streaming. She showed off the game's beautiful art, its clever mechanics, and its obvious love for the medium. She demonstrated the cooperative elements, the creative challenges, and the way the game seemed to respond to their emotions and play styles. The stream became one of her most popular ever, but more importantly, it felt meaningful again. She wasn't just creating content for the sake of views or sponsor obligations. She was sharing something genuinely special with people who understood and appreciated the magic of gaming. The chat was full of viewers asking where they could play the game, wanting to experience the same joy for themselves. Maya had to explain that it was a completely unique creation, something that could never be replicated or distributed. But she promised to continue exploring games that captured the same spirit, titles that prioritize fun and creativity over competition and optimization. Over the following days and weeks, Maya's entire approach to streaming evolved dramatically. She started featuring indie games that prioritize creativity and innovation over market appeal. She explored experimental titles that pushed the boundaries of what games could be and do. She rediscovered forgotten classics that had been overshadowed by newer, more commercially successful releases. She began playing co-op games with Leo regularly, making their friendship and collaborative spirit a central part of her content. Their chemistry was obvious and infectious, and viewers loved watching them work together to overcome challenges and discover new experiences. Maya even started a series called Joy Quests, where she specifically sought out games that emphasized wonder, creativity, and positive emotions over competition and conflict. Each episode featured her exploring a different title, sharing her genuine reactions, and inviting viewers to join her on journeys of discovery. The arcade cabinet became the centerpiece of her streaming setup, a constant reminder of Uncle Marcus's wisdom and the importance of prioritizing joy over achievement. She kept it prominently displayed, often telling new viewers about the elaborate surprise that had changed her life and her perspective on gaming. Some nights, she would play the custom game alone, feeling connected to her uncle's memory and the pure love of gaming he had tried to preserve for her. Those solo sessions became a form of meditation, a way to center herself and remember what really mattered. Maya still competed in tournaments occasionally, but her entire approach was different. She played to enjoy the experience, to test her skills, and to connect with the gaming community. Winning was nice, but it was no longer the only measure of success or self-worth. The joy was in the game itself, in the moments of flow and discovery, in the connections forged with friends and fellow gamers. Competition became fun again when it wasn't the only thing that mattered. Her audience grew steadily, drawn by her authentic enthusiasm and genuine love for the medium. Sponsors began reaching out, interested in associating their brands with her positive, community-focused approach to gaming. But Maya was selective, choosing partnerships that aligned with her values and supported her mission of making gaming fun again. One evening, as Maya was preparing for another stream, she noticed something new on the arcade cabinet screen. A message had appeared overnight, written in Uncle Marcus's familiar handwriting. "Thanks for remembering, kiddo. Keep having fun, and help others remember too. The world needs more joy, not more competition. Uncle Marcus." Maya smiled and wiped away a tear. Uncle Marcus had given her the greatest gift possible, not just a game, but a reminder of who she was and why she had fallen in love with gaming in the first place. His whimsical, elaborate legacy had helped her truly level up, not in rankings or statistics, but in understanding what really mattered. The broken arcade cabinet was broken no more. It had become the heart of Maya's renewed passion, a symbol of the joy that could be found in play, and a bridge between the gamer she had been and the gamer she was becoming. Every time she sat down to play, she remembered Uncle Marcus's most important lesson: the greatest victory is always the joy of the game. Competition has its place, but it should never replace the simple, pure pleasure of play. Maya grabbed the joysticks, grinned at her camera, and prepared to share that joy with the world. The real game was just beginning, and this time, she was going to make sure everyone remembered how to have fun.